TCI is brought to you by Northern Afleet, standing at TaylorMade Stallions, sire of 5 millionaires and 6 Grade 1 winners. Find out more at northernafleet.com.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Breeders' Cup. I'm John Siegel alongside Joel Cunningham. Joel, a lot of races to talk about from this weekend. Let's start off at Del Mar, where we saw our #1 on the TCI top 5 for the sprint division. Yeah. Of course, I'm talking about Amazombie. Joel, he does not go off the favorite in here, but he was very impressive.
He was impressive, John. Now, he got a great trip. It was a short field, and, you know, the race sort of played out like everybody thought it was on paper. And how often does that happen? Not very often, but in a short field here, you know, you had Calm to the Top going to the lead, a horse that loves the poly track, and I thought he ran pretty well, set an honest pace. He had the Factor, which, interesting enough, the Factor hype is what took the money in here. He was your favorite in the race, probably due to how hot Bob Baffert is. We'll talk about Bob Baffert, how hot he is in just a little bit. But I thought the Factor ran well. He actually ran better than I thought. But Amazombie was the horse to beat at 6 furlongs. You know, the Factor's more of a 7 furlong, maybe miler type horse. I think he needs a little further distance. I like the way he finished in here. But for Amazombie to save ground, track, you know, watch those two horses duel in front of him, it was easy for him to come around and get him, in my opinion. 6 furlongs is his game, and he remains #1 in the sprint division, John. And physically, he looked great, too.
Is he the best sprinter in the country right now?
He definitely is. Hands down, he's the best sprinter in the country. We're going to see the Vanderbilt this weekend at Saratoga. And we'll see horses like MC, who I think could make a big statement this weekend on the East Coast. But right now, your defending champ, Amazombie, is #1 in that division.
All right, let's take it to the East Coast. Let's go to Saratoga and talk about the Jim Dandy. You know, you got some of our viewers upset by saying Alpha was a second-tier horse. Joel, I thought he was very impressive in the Jim Dandy. Is he now a first stringer in your mind?
I don't think he is. You know, here's a horse that I thought had a big shot in the Belmont, but that was just because he would have been coming in fresh, and at the 1.5-mile distance, you know, we saw how flat Paynter was in the stretch. It going 1.5 miles wasn't nearly as brilliant as what we saw in the Haskell, and we'll talk about that. But I just thought at that distance that he could be like Stay Thirsty and be a big-time player in there. He missed that race, obviously. Hasn't run since the Derby, so he came in fresh with some bullet works, and I think that was key, John. We talked last week and how this was a paceless race. And, you know, coming in, who was going to get the lead? The quality on the front or close to the front end, I thought was going to have a big edge in here. He was able to get an easy, uncontested lead, very reasonable fractions. I mean, this horse hasn't been on the lead in 7 starts. Breaks from the rail and is sharp enough to get it. He loved the sloppy track. Obviously, that Bernardini line, they love the slop. And he proved best in the race. Neck and Neck also ran well. But I still don't put him on as a grade A 3-year-old at this point. I mean, he's still going to have to prove it in the Travers, John. I actually thought the Curlin the day before. I actually thought that listed stake was Street Life. He got a 104 Briss rating. Alpha got a 103 Briss rating. So I still think between those horses, they're both looking up next month when they have to face a horse like Paynter.
Well, let's talk about Paynter real quick. You know, very impressive in the Haskell. But before we go into it, let's bring on Justin Zayat. He's the racing manager for Zayat Stables. Hey, Justin, thank you so much for coming back on TCI.
Thank you very much for having me on your show.
Hey, Justin, you know, Paynter, very impressive there at Monmouth. Tell me, how are you feeling this morning?
I mean, first of all, I'm born in New Jersey, so to win the biggest race in my state is incredible. I haven't been to a big win in person for a really long time, so to be there felt really good. Paynter's performance, I mean, I think this horse deserves this win all year. He gave him such a hard campaign, and he lost so narrowly in the Belmont. And to come back and rebound the race like the Haskell here and win like he did was pretty impressive to me, and it was just an unbelievable feeling.
Hey, Justin, Joel here. Obviously a brilliant win by a horse that, you know, you've had high hopes for all along. Everybody has talked about the talent potential of this horse. To finally see it now, you know, obviously after a run-up performance at Belmont, well documented that you run second in all 3 Triple Crown races, having had the lead going into the stretch in all 3 races. Let's go to the Twin Spires TV race replay right now of the Haskell. Justin, I want you to take me through your thoughts as Paynter just impressively opens up here in the stretch. What are you thinking right about now?
I didn't even think we were a for sure winner at the top of the stretch. Just Sinonio's coming on the outside, and I'm just yelling, "Oh no, not right now! No, don't do this to me again!" And I mean, then Raphael whipped him right-handed, and he just took off, and it felt great. I can't even explain the feeling. I'm on cloud 9 all day, and all year Bob was telling us this horse he's a really special colt. Give him his time, he's really special. And all year he was kind of in the shadow of Bodemeister, and all year I was just waiting for this performance to come.
You know, Justin, there was a lot made by how Paynter was kind of washing out before the race a little bit, and that he was a little bit rank going into that first turn. But that's just the horse's personality, isn't it?
I mean, I saw him, he walked into paddock a little on his toes, but that's just Paynter for you. I mean, he's always kind of a muscled-up horse, and he kind of prances around. But, I mean, I saw him as soon as he got out on the track, he was relaxed, and he just looked awesome. I mean, Bob texted me in the post-parade, Paynter looks great, and I was confident from there.
Well, Justin, right now we're showing a picture of you hoisting the Haskell Trophy after leading Paynter into the winner's circle. Got to be an amazing feeling for you. How did he come out of the race? And you mentioned Bodemeister earlier. What's now next for Paynter and Bodemeister?
He came out really well. I spoke to Jim Barnes this morning and came out healthy and sound. So we're headed back to Del Mar, and he'll be training with Bodie in Del Mar. Paynter will point for the Travers, and Bodie will probably run him in the King's Bishop.
Well, Justin, sounds like you got a big weekend coming up. We're going to be up there for Travers weekend. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you very much. I look forward to talking with you guys again.
Well, Joel, like we said, they had a run of seconds. It is now broken. Looks like maybe Justin is the good luck.
Yeah, Bob, obviously, with health conditions, staying home, I don't think it was really to stay and watch the factor. I think he would have liked to have been at the Haskell, but not traveling as much these days. Big breakthrough win. Good for them. Obviously, coming off of 3 heartbreaking defeats in the Triple Crown, you like to see now this horse breaking through, John. And I really feel like going forward, he's not only going to be your favorite in the Travers, but I think he's a leading 3-year-old out there in that Classic division.
Well, let's talk about it for just a second because, you know, Paynter, a lot of people may not know, he ran just his second start in the Santa Anita Derby. Of course, lost to I'll Have Another, but he had trouble coming out of the gate in that race.
He really did. He fell on his face. I know Bob wanted him to be a lot more forwardly placed. And he was really giving away so much seasoning in that race. I mean, if you can recall, I'll Have Another had the work in between races. He was sitting on an A race, obviously, and a big run, you know, through the Triple Crown that he wound up having. I'll Have Another. And then it was just a quality race. Creative Cause ran big that day. He was in great form then in California. So I don't think it was any disrespect. If you watch that race in the stretch, when Paynter gets free in his first start around 2 turns, he actually is finishing with those 2. He just happened to lose so much ground early and get shuffled around, have an in-between sort of trip, but he finishes well in the stretch. A big-time talent. And this colt, he's been one of the fastest 3-year-old colts, you know, in the country his last couple starts. A lot of people don't realize if you're like a Ragusan Sheets player, he's been running 2s, John. And yeah, it might have been in a Pimlico Allowance, might have been the Derby Trial when it was a muddy track that day, but he's a fast horse. Things have come to fruition now, and I think he's a big player in the Classic division.
All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back on Thursday. We'll be talking about another Grade 1 at Saratoga, the Whitney.